with Gold show. What a treat you guys are going to have today. I'm so excited to bring my husband to the show back. The previous time he came on the show, he came to thank for all the prayers that this entire community kept sending our way during the surgery, during like right after he had his strokes. And it was incredible to see how this gave him so much strength and sustenance during that period of time. But before I bring him on, I want to remind everybody that we're doing the 10 golden nuggets to heal your going through the book, each chapter, each of the 10 golden nuggets, and we are going in depth into those 10 aspects of healing mind and soul. We're doing this in the memory of Miriam Amsalem, who died extremely suddenly at a very young age and really broke me, upset me for many, many reasons. She was really somebody who helped me get into taking care of my body. Starting working with the functional medicine, it definitely was with her help and guidance. And before I was able to tell her that I was feeling so much better, thanks to her, she passed away from an aneurysm. So we're doing this 10-part series in honor of her soul, if for a good transition to the next whatever is next. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I put the book on sale. So if anybody's interested in getting the Kindle, is 99 cents, and the soft cover is $9.99. During this period of time that we're doing this project, this season of the show, you can go on Amazon and search for Heal with Gold, and then you can even go over the interviews and the book alongside one another. I think it could be really helpful. All of these interviews are live, but you can watch them on replay. You can watch them as many times as you want. They're available for you, and you can forward to other people and help us spread the message, so other people can get more healing and love and so on. As you come in, please say hello. Tell me who you are. If you didn't approve StreamYard, I'm not going to see your name. So if you tell me who you are, I'll be able to read it in the comments. If you have any questions, you'll be able to ask. I'm so happy you're here. And without further ado, welcome, Mr. Mikah.
Good evening, everyone. And this is Mikah.
Yes. So, okay. So let's start this. I wanted to share with everybody, every time I have a subject and I have to pick a person to interview, I'm looking for the right person for the right topic. Who somebody's trying to cook dinner. Okay, cook your dinner while you're listening. It's all good. I try to pick the right person for the right topic. And this is a very serious topic of faith. And I didn't want to make a mistake with whom I was going to bring to the show. And I needed to be certain that the person who I was going to bring really lives in faith and is that kind of a person, and not just talking about faith, but not meaning and not living that life. So I have no doubt that you're the right person, because I know how you live, and I'm inspired. Sometimes I get upset because it is intense and it's too much. But I'm gonna before I ask you to start talking and we're going to have this conversation, I want to tell a little bit of a story. And the story is that there is this person who's driving. He's going to the mall. He has to pick up some things for his wife. And it's Christmas time. The mall is packed and there's hardly any parking spots. And it's rainy season and it's winter, it's cold, and he wants to find a parking spot at the entrance of the mall. He doesn't want to park far away, have to walk, not find his car. And he's praying to God, and he's having this whole conversation: God, please, please, please get me a spot right close to the entrance. Hi, Nomi. Welcome. I'm happy you're here. And he's asking God, if you find me a parking spot very close to the entrance, I'm going to give such a nice amount of charity for organization XYZ, and I'm going to do this good act and that good act. And he's just having this conversation with God and begging, begging, begging to have the best spot right at the entrance of the mall. And he's circling and circling, and suddenly a car leaves right the first spot at the mall, the best spot. You couldn't have asked for a better spot. And before he's waiting to go in, and he goes, God, no, 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 don't worry, I got it already, I got it. Like, I don't need you anymore. I got the spot. And it's a little bit like that. We ask for things. When we get to the things, sometimes we don't realize that our prayers are being answered. We have an easy time to concentrate on all of the difficult things that happen in our lives. And sometimes we don't think too much about the good and the blessings that we're getting every single day. And, this show, in a way, goes hand in hand with the gratitude show, which we will have in a few weeks with an amazing speaker on gratitude. I'm yet to announce that speaker, but he also is somebody who lives and breathes gratitude. But it's not just gratitude, right? I mean, we tend to be grateful to the good things that happen in our lives. But what about the difficult things? And I think that living in faith is really realizing that even the bad things and the difficult things, bad, I mean, we perceive them as bad. We are also find the way to be grateful. And this is something that you, Levi, you you live it every day, and I'm in awe. And like I said in the beginning, sometimes is hard because I'm not at your level by any stretch of the imagination. And and sometimes it's really, really difficult to cope with the adversities that come our way. Aloha, salud. Welcome, welcome. So I want a lot of people that are watching now, or is going to watch later, may not know a little bit your history. But just since 2019, we went together, you particularly, through a lot of adversities. You had two strokes. We found a very rare tumor in your adrenal gland called pheochromocytoma, which was causing all of the health issues. Uh, I lost my father 30 days after your first stroke. It changed our lives completely. You had to stop working. You lost memory. You lost vision. It's hard for you to read. There are things you don't see. I mean, it's not just the event, right? The catastrophic event that it's the stroke, but it's the shock. It's the everything else that affected your body, and living with all the consequences from the strokes. But not once you complained. I haven't heard once that you questioned why you, or didn't we suffer enough, and we have gone through a lot of things. I don't know if it's because we are intense people, um, or it's just, I don't know. We could talk about that. Why have we gone through so many ups and downs? And I'm going to pass the microphone to you in a second. Um, but I need to understand how it is that you were able to live like that, um, in genuinely, with so much peace, and like a sincere, complete faith that everything is for the best, even when it's hard.
I'm assuming I got the microphone now.
Yes, you did. You did. I'm just going to say hello to Fernanda, my sister by choice, Marina. Thank you guys so much for being here. Levi, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you also from me for everybody who's joining us and everybody who will watch the show later. Um, I think you mentioned a lot of different things. I'm not exactly sure which one you want me to address, but how is it that somebody has a certain level of faith and somebody has a less or a more level of faith? I think that it starts from what you want, because everything that you do in life is driven by your wants and your needs. If you really want that dress and it costs too much money, you're going to save, you're going to put it aside, you're not going to buy other dresses until you have enough money to buy that dress that you wanted. And it's the same like that for everything. How is it that you want what you want? That's beyond us. That's coming from somewhere else. I don't know how that happens, but we all want different things. And this is one thing that always intrigued me when I was younger, to have more faith, to understand, because the bottom line is, I believe that we're all sent to this world with a mission. And in order to accomplish anything meaningful, we have to have faith. Without it, it's not meaningful what we do. Of course, you can do all kinds of things without having faith, but it's almost like it doesn't mean the same thing. Why are you doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for has a whole different meaning when you have faith, aside from obviously everything else in your life is going to look differently when you have faith. And it's important to know that faith is not something that you just have, it's something that you have to work on and develop constantly. So when you say, I'm not on your level, that just means that you have to work harder. I've been working on this for many, many years. I remember when I went to, there was a friend that I would meet with in Boca. I'm not going to mention any names. And I would go to his house and we would sit and talk. And one day while I was in his house, somebody else came and borrowed a book about faith. And I was like, I didn't even know that this book existed. And I've been waiting for this book. And following that, he gave me one of his copies, and it was like a whole series, and I bought more of them. And I don't even remember how long this is, but it's quite a few years. And I've been going through these books again and again and again and again since then. Aside from, there was a period around the time that I got my stroke, or a little bit before, or a little bit after, that I wasn't doing it. Um, and like you said, it's difficult for me to read, but this is something that's very important. This is what I feel that I'm here to do, is to work and improve this. And it's not something that you just have. You may have a will to do it. You may have some talents, a certain kind of brain or heart or whatever, but technically everybody is capable of faith, and it's something that you have to work on. It doesn't just happen.
So, okay, so this is good to know, because it's good to know that this is something that it's a choice. Just like I always say, joy is a choice. Having faith is a choice, and if it
Absolutely.
is and if it's a choice, we can choose the right material, books, speeches, to be inspired and to believe more. Talk to me and everybody who's here. I love that story of the child crossing the street. The mother pulls the child, really hurts the child. Tell that story, you know what I'm talking about, to explain the concept of us feeling pain. So, pain in our minds is something bad. But from that example and some other examples that you have, we see that pain is not necessarily something bad. And I think that a lot of times people need to realize that pain doesn't equate with bad. It equates with hard, with difficult, with sad, but not with bad. So
Well, hopefully not with sad either. But um, the truth is that pain, like everything else in life, it depends on where are you looking at it from? What's your angle? How do you view it? Right? If you're going somewhere and somebody pushes you, your first reaction is to be upset at that person that pushed you. But if you realize that that person pushed you out of traffic, there was a car coming, the car was like going to hit you or something, then all of a sudden you love and thank that person because they saved your life. So it's really, how do you look at what's happening to you in life? So the example that you said was a woman that's going somewhere with her child and they're going to cross the street, and the woman grabs the child's hand and holds on tightly and says, "You have to walk with me across the street." And many times the child's like, "No, I'm big enough. I want to walk by myself." Big enough for the child might be, 2.5 feet off the ground, where the car wouldn't even see that the child is there. And the child is also not developed enough mentally to understand, even if the mother would say, "Okay, let's sit down and I'll explain to you why you have to hold my hand." It's likely that the child is not going to understand what the mother is talking about. And it's the same story with a child that found some cleaning product and they want to drink it, and the mother found them or the father found them or a brother whatever, and they grab this liquid out of the child's hands. So the first reaction of the child's side is going to be screaming and shouting, "I wanted to drink that stuff. It has a nice color, it looks cool, my mom always uses it, I wanted to taste it." And the adult is saying, "This thing could really, really hurt you. You cannot taste it. Nobody drinks this stuff." But the child can't understand why. What's wrong with somebody drinking that? Because they didn't come across, gasoline or cleaning products or whatever it is that's bad for them. So it's not just that the child is in pain. The child is in a place that they can't even understand what was wrong with what they were doing and why they're having the pain. So it's the same thing, really, with us as adults. As smart as we may be, there are things that are beyond us. And if God decided that I have to go through a stroke, or I have to go through surgery, or I have to go through the consequences, which to me it's all the same, he had a good reason to decide that, because all he's concerned about is, how can I help this person become a better person? How can I bring this person to where they're supposed to get to? Because we're all sent here to do something. I mean, more than one thing, a bunch of things, but we're all sent here with a mission. And this God that's out there decided, for this mission, this person has to have this kind of a body. They have to have hair like mine or not. They have to have, good teeth or bad teeth, a nose, arms. Some people don't have those things. It's not about me saying, "Oh, I wish I had that," or "I wish I looked like that," or "I wish I had that car or that house or that wife," or whatever it is. There is a reason why I have what I have and why I don't have what I don't have. And it's not even something that I can understand. I have to have the faith that I was sent here to accomplish something, and that covers everything in my life. So I have the wife that I have in order to help me accomplish my goal, and she has me as her husband in order to help her accomplish her goal. And the children have these parents and these siblings because everything was set up in the exact fantastic way that only God can do. And we couldn't even understand it. Of course, after we leave this world, we're hoping that we will be able to understand it. But here we can't. Even if God would take us and sit us down and say, "Okay, let me explain to you why your wife is like that, or why your house is like that, or why whatever," we wouldn't be able to understand what he's talking about. Rarely we do see certain things that happen and we understand a little portion of why it happened like that. Everybody has those things where you run to the airport or you run to the train and you miss the train, and then something happened on the train, or something happened where you were going to go, or something happened where you are that you wouldn't be around if you made the train or made the plane or whatever it is. And that could be a part of why you missed the train or didn't miss the train.
I want to talk to you about. I know all of that because I hear it so often, and I
But
know.
it's not just for you.
No, I know, and I know that you live this way all the time, and it's not that you choose when to be a believer, and that is what's fascinating because it's so easy to be a believer when things are good, and the hard
I
time.
have, hold on a second. I have to stop you because first of all, it's not true.
No.
As much of the faith that I have, and I have been working on it for a long time, I don't feel that I'm near to anything that's meaningful yet. I still have times that I doubt things, that I am upset about things. You may not see that. I don't complain to you about it. I try. I work all the time if something happens to accept it. And it's a process. It wasn't like that when I started. And obviously, I've improved in a lot of areas, but I have much more to go. I have a lot of work to do. And just because there are other people that have less, that shouldn't make me feel comfortable where I am. I have to keep going forward too. Everybody has to improve. Just like, we know a lot of people that have a lot of money, but they don't stop and say, I'm going to retire and I'm going to live off whatever I have. They keep working like crazy their whole lives to make more and more and more and more. Why is that? It's not that they need so much more money. It's just that this person's personality is such that they enjoy the work in making the money. So they keep doing it, even if they don't need to. It's the same thing. I feel like I'm here to work on my faith. Of course, there are other things I have to work on, but this for me is the main thing. So even though I worked on it and I got better at it, I still have way, way, way more work to do.
Oy vey.
That's a very Jewish comment.
um, I want to. Okay, first of all, I have a question for from Fernanda. So
Okay.
let's answer that. She's saying, where do you see that is our responsibility to make changes instead of just accepting it? I'm assuming, Fernanda, correct me if I'm wrong, is if something bad happened to us. Is that what you're asking? You can start answering, Levi. Because I don't know if she stayed here since she wrote it.
Okay.
Yes, she said yes. She replied.
Okay.
She
So
said
if
yes.
I understood correctly, the question is, if I go out of the house, okay, I'm going to drive somewhere. I get into the car and I realize as I'm starting to drive that I have a flat tire. So what should I do now? Should I go back home and say, okay, I'm not going because I have a flat tire, or should I change the tire and go where I need to go? Or even if I can't go where I need to go because it's going to be too late, should I fix it or should I not? And how does that change with what happens, right? So it's a very good question. And generally speaking, I don't feel that there's one answer that's good for everybody because it depends a lot on your personality. In other words, how much of the faith have you achieved? How do you live your life? So there are in everybody's life things that they act on and things that they don't act on. If they were going to cross the street and something happened and they got hurt, they're not going to sit on the ground and say, okay, God wanted me to get hurt, and they're not going to take care of it. They're going to take care of it. They're going to go to the hospital. They're going to go to the doctor. They're going to bandage it. They're going to do whatever they need to do in order to be better. Okay. And there are other things, and I can't think of an example now where somebody's going to say, okay, it didn't work out because maybe you don't care about it so much, or maybe you don't know if you can do anything about it. It varies by person, but obviously, when you have more faith, there are going to be more situations that you may decide not to do anything about it. And the most important thing is that when you have more faith, it's not about what you do so much as how do you look at it? How upset are you going to be? If you're getting upset, then you have to work on your faith to improve it. Because whatever God is doing to you, it's good. Even if it hurts you, it's good. So accept it the right way and then decide what you want to do.
Fernanda is explaining her question. Is like sometimes we get comfortable and we just accepted that this is my life. But Fernanda, your life can always improve, and you are here to always improve your life. So it's not something that I think that in anything that you go through your life, the moment that you just accept it and you stop, you start moving backwards. There is no staying still in one place. You never achieve something, and then if you stay there, you plateau. It doesn't work like that. If you don't continue working on your faith, you start regressing and taking things for granted and not appreciating things that you have. And the growth stops and you start walking backwards. So I think that you really supposed to constantly be working on yourself and taking care, analyzing. You're supposed to introspect, you know, how am I behaving? How am I thinking? Am I getting angry quickly? And am I not giving people the benefit of the doubt? How am I behaving as a human being that it's preparing me for growth, or is setting me out to setting me up to do bad things and feel bad feelings that are not productive and constructive. So I think that this is the type of thing that we do checks and balances on a regular basis. And when we do, we can correct certain behaviors and thoughts and feelings. One of the things that I used to do a lot and I got better was that I used to imagine the story would get worse and worse in my mind. So I would get angrier at something that even it was just in my mind. It was not at all something
Yeah.
that happened. There is that little story that a neighbor needs to borrow a broom from his other neighbor, and he's imagining, oh, I'm going to go to him, and the neighbor is going to tell him, what do you need it for? I don't want to lend it to you. You're going to bring it dirty for me. So as he's walking to the neighbor's house, the neighbor opens the door and he shouts, I don't want your broom. Keep your broom. I'm not going to borrow your broom. He didn't even ask for the broom, but he just imagined all of the stories of how the person was going to react, and he got angry. And I think that so many things that happen throughout our day is part of our imagination. Yesterday something happened with me and I got very angry, and I decided that I was going to tell the person nicely, but I was going to give that person an opportunity to understand how I felt. And that person today was able to call me and we had a conversation about it, and she was able to apologize. But it took me a long time to be able to explain in a very nice and coherent way. I mean, through my life, I was able to work on myself, mainly for living with Levi and seeing how he thinks and how he operates. And I started learning some of these behaviors is to choose what we do, because if we have faith, right? If we have faith, then what happened to us was meant to happen. So I'll explain. I was meant to go yesterday to a place where there was going to be a mini photo shoot. And it was something that I donated money for an organization. And the organization was going to do this as part of this event. And I'm 10 minutes, I'm running late, and I texted that I'm running late. And they told me to still come. And then when I'm 10 minutes from the door, they told me, don't come, we're not going to be able to include you. And I had driven an hour and a half, and I took my whole day off. It was like a complicated thing. And then I had for a moment, I get all upset, like I can't believe that I wasted my whole day and so much money with gas, with this, with the other. And then I had to remember, this is living in faith. I had to remember, did this person cancel with me, or did God not want me for some reason to be there? And I don't know the answer. Why not, right? But maybe there was somebody there that I wasn't supposed to meet. Maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable there. Maybe he saved me from something. I don't have to immediately look at the worst case scenario for me. Maybe it was a protection, but I don't see that, right? I only see that I had this whole big aggravation and I couldn't be there. And I had to choose, and I was with my daughter, and I told my daughter, I'm going to explain to this person why I'm upset. And my daughter, who is very much like my husband, no confrontations, the sweetest thing, super delicate. And she goes, Mom, are you sure you want to? Like, what are you going to get at this? What are you going to get from telling? And I said, they're a nonprofit organization. What I'm going to get is that they will understand how to value a donor, and they won't do the same mistake again, because I'll explain to them nicely how it made me feel. It's not so they will compensate me, but it's so there's going to be growth on their side and there's going to be growth on my side. And the conversation today was really great. And the understanding was great, but that was only able to happen because I was able to step back and I was able to say, did she do this to me, or was it orchestrated by a higher power? And this helps in dealing with adversity. Because if you think this person did this to me, that person did this to me, this doctor did this to me, we start gathering hatred for all of these people that wronged us. And that's one way to live life. And then you have resentment and anger and hurt, and your heart starts being filled with all of those bad feelings. But if you understand that everything has been orchestrated by a higher power for good, then these people were just messengers, you don't need to direct this anger towards them, and you just need to say, God, I really don't understand what was the reason. I don't need to understand. I wish I could, but I'm not at that level. I don't understand. But if that is what you wanted to happen, then I'm going to accept it with love, and I'm going to make the best out of it. You have, what was that story that you have, Levi, about exactly that? Oh, the dog, the hitting a dog with this stick. Remember that story that you always tell me? No? Okay.
I'm not sure.
That's the stroke, because this is a story that you always tell me.
I'm not sure. Maybe I remember it. I'm not sure it's the story. So start it, and if I remember,
Okay, so somebody hits the dog with a stick, right? A person, even the owner, hits the dog with the stick,
right.
And the dog
bites the stick.
The dog bites the stick, but the dog is not angry at the person who's holding the stick.
Right.
And every person that wrongs us and hurt us, they're the stick. And they're puppets, right? They're just there to create the entire situation that we go through. But the reality is that the one who's orchestrating that is this higher power. God, and I say I have a very open relationship with God. And there are many times that I'm very mad with him, and I think it's valid because I have a relationship. So sometimes I'm telling him, I think you exaggerated. I think you crossed the line a little bit. That's my opinion. Nobody asked me, but frankly, don't like it. Not happy, not having it. And I think that that's part of having a real close relationship with God, is that sometimes you don't understand it, and you tell it to him, I don't like it. But I think that every time that when this happened to me yesterday, I was the dog, the stick, the dog, the stick. They're just a stick, and it's like it's a vivid example how faith helps appease the mind, appease the soul,
the heart.
The heart.
Yes.
The heart.
Because a lot of the emotions that you have, and everybody has, about everything that happens in life, they wouldn't be there, or they would be different if you realize that God is managing everything. So I understand that you have this attitude and relationship, and you feel that it's okay for you to be upset with God. I don't see it that way myself. I see God is so awesome and loving to an extent that we can't even understand. He loves us so much more, millions of times more than we love the person that we love the most. And all he's focused on is doing the best for us in this world and in the next world. And every single thing that God does to a person is to help that person and to make the person's life better. So I can't even imagine a situation of being upset with God. But that's just the way I look at it. You can look at it however, however you look at it. But
Yeah.
there's no question also that the more faith you have, the less emotional you are about things. So to begin with, if you want to do something, right, and it doesn't work out, how upset are you going to be about that not working out? Let's say today you said that yesterday, or was it today, that you wanted to do that photo shoot and
Yes.
you're driving to it and it didn't work out. She told you this, she told you that. So to begin with, maybe you don't care so much about the photo shoot, but you're upset because you drove so much and you made an effort and you had to go your hair done and whatever you needed to do in order to make this happen, whatever it is. The more emotionally attached you are to those things, the more you're upset when they don't work out. But if your attitude is, I have a photo shoot, I'm going to do what I can do to be ready for the photo shoot, and then it doesn't work out, and the person told you to come, and after you drove so long, she said, actually, no, and you're almost there. So that comes down to how much faith do you have that God wanted you to go do your hair and drive so far away with all the traffic with your daughter, my daughter, in the car, all the way there to be turned around and sent back home. How upset you are about that goes together with how emotional you were to begin with. So it's a few steps. It's not just, is God managing what happened now? God managed the whole thing from the beginning. He set up this whole photo shoot for you, and he got the hairdresser, and he made the traffic, and everything was done by God in order to put you in that situation. Why, we don't know. And to me, the why is not important, because I know that God loves me and he loves you and he loves every person, and he does everything for the best of that person. And if you lived in a previous, I don't know, 2000 years ago, you lived somewhere else and you were a different person, obviously, and you did something that you had to correct, maybe you're correcting that now by going through that experience.
Okay, you got exactly to the point of what I wanted to bring now,
Okay.
which is something that I asked you earlier today, and we spoke about it before the show. Are those adversities punishments? Because I think, I choose to see God as very kind and loving, and
And he is.
not a mean, punishing God.
Okay.
But we were talking about, are those adversities punishments? And you said something that I much prefer over the word punishment. I don't like the word punishment. You said those are corrections. And I love that point of view, because I think that oftentimes people say, "Oh, I'm going through a hard time. I must be a horrible person." And if you start feeling this way and thinking this way, you are not strong enough to fix and do the work to heal, because you say, "Oh, I'm a nothing. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not God. God have forsaken me, and I'm abandoned." When you are in that place, you cannot move forward and correct and build and grow and learn more, and get inspired, because your entire attitude is one of, you're frozen in that victim state. So I don't like when people say, I must have deserved it, I'm no good. But I think that it's much easier for us to understand that none of us are perfect, and that we need a little bit of direction, just like, we're raising children and we love our children and we think they're the best thing that ever happened. They're the best kids, but they sometimes shout, they sometimes don't clean their room, they sometimes do things that requires correction. That this is how you're raising them and this is how you're bringing them back and steering them back to the values that you want to instill in them in your home. And it's not that you love them less, the opposite. You love them more. Because I remember one time, a long time ago, I was at a wedding. We were at a wedding, and I was sitting next to somebody. I'm not going to mention her name, but I really like this person, and she's so real. She's so authentic, and she's so like without lies. She's really open.
Real.
So she said to me, tell me something, Miriam. How do you raise your kids? Your girls are so good. I'm having such a hard time. All my kids are messed up. And she was like so open like that. And I said, well, I don't know that I'm doing such a great job, but we're very on top. We're very on top of where our kids are, who they go in the car with. We don't let them drive so early because we're scared of the drivers, and we don't.
You mean young age?
Young age, right?
Yeah.
We're very much like on top, so if we don't let our kids drive when they're 15, 16, so then we have to pick them up and we have to stay up late, and we do all of that, and we actually invite more kids into our house over them going to somewhere else because we don't know who the kids are, we want to see them, blah blah blah. So I'm telling her how we parent, and she's like, wow, this is exhausting. That's the answer, because I let my kids do whatever they want because I don't have the energy for it. But she was so real. It was such a. By the way, her kids turned out amazing, amazing. They really turned out great. But the point was that being a parent who is watching like a hawk, the kid not always is enjoying, right? That parent who is overseeing and checking and taking.
Not at all. I mean, we were kids. We didn't enjoy it.
No, exactly. We come from sets of parents who were extremely on top, and it was very, very hard. But that is what's happening in a way, is that God towards us is that parent that is watching way more than we could ever watch our kids. And sometimes we don't enjoy it, especially we don't enjoy the corrections. So when you take your phone away from your child, especially in today's day, it's like the worst punishment that you can give your kid. The kid is really angry, it doesn't understand it. The parent is not like punishing because the kid is worthless. The opposite. He wants to maintain the kid in the right path and maintain the values of the family. So talk about this correction, this, because it is hard. We went through such hard things, before all the issues, family issues, we're still dealing with the aftermath, and it's hard to recover. I mean, today our lives completely changed. You're not working, I get anxious because of it. Why am I anxious? I shouldn't be anxious at all. The truth is, I know in my logic that it doesn't matter. I bring in as much as I need to bring in if you were working and if you're not working, and I understand all of that. But when you're in the midst of all of those trials and tribulations, it is very easy for the person to feel, wow, am I so bad that I deserve a punishment? And I want you to talk about correction versus punishment.
Okay. I'll do my best.
And then after that, I have a question by somebody. I don't know who it is because they didn't approve StreamYard. But after you answer, I'll put this person's question on the screen.
Okay. So punishment or correction. So let's say the easiest example that we can use is that we're parents and we have kids, and the kids do things. Okay. So we're human. Okay. We're not God. We're human. And so a lot of the ways that we raise our kids are not perfect. Okay. Let's say you sent the kid to bed and you said you have to go to sleep now. And they said, okay, I'm going to sleep. They close the door and you leave. And then for some reason you come close to to the room, or you hear something and you realize they didn't go to sleep. They put the light back on, excuse me, or they're on the phone, or they're talking to somebody, or they're watching a movie, or they're whatever they're doing. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So many times, because we're people, we're human, the reaction that we're going to have is not going to be, okay, this child needs to learn to do what they said that they're going to do, and to listen to the parents and whatever it is that you want to teach them. And you say, okay, I'm going to think about what's the best way for me to punish them so they're going to get that message, because I'm not upset at them. Okay. Most of the time, we are upset at them. We get personally upset that they said that they're going to go to sleep and they're not going to sleep. How could you raise kids like that? They're misbehaving. And most of the time, what's going to follow is a punishment that doesn't really fit the crime. It fits how we feel. We're upset now, so we open the door, we shout at them, we scream at them, we take something of theirs, we put off the light, we punish them, okay? But in a way, that's more of what we call punishment, because it doesn't fit what they did. It fits how we felt about it, how angry we were. And if something else happened to us that day, between when they said they were going to sleep until we caught them, we had a fight with your our spouse, or we had a fight with a parent or another kid, and now when we come upstairs and we notice that the kid is not sleeping, they're going to get it much more. Why? Because we're more upset, because for some other reason, it doesn't have anything to do with them. But that's the reaction that they're going to get. And God is not like that. God doesn't get emotional because we said we're going to do something and we didn't do it. He just wants us to become perfect people. And so when God punishes, it's not really a punishment. It's a form of correcting what you did. So if you did something wrong, maybe God said, don't do this, and you did it. So now you cause damage to the fabric of the universe, and that has to be fixed. And in addition to that, you have responsibility for what you did and for not listening to God when he said, don't do that, or do that, and you didn't do it, whatever the case may be. So when God is causing you pain, the purpose is not for you to be in pain. The purpose is to correct you and to fix you and to make you the person. Huh?
To make you kintsugi.
Exactly. But much better than kintsugi. Much better than kintsugi. The purpose is to fix you and correct you. And sometimes, or almost every time, there's going to be pain involved, because when we do something that we're not supposed to, let's say we broke into a store and we stole something. Okay. So what we did, aside from the fact that we stole this item from the store, we broke the door in order to get in, right? Maybe we dropped some stuff on the floor while we were getting our stuff. And what about the spiritual damage that we did to ourselves, and the spiritual damage that we did to the owner of the store and to the policeman and to the insurance salesperson? They see all of those things and it affects them in a negative way. So in our society, somebody broke into a store, they stole something, they get caught. Maybe they're going to get punished by the police. Maybe they're going to go to court. Maybe they're going to go to jail. The owner of the store usually gets nothing out of this whole deal. And they had to fix the window that was broken, and they had to replace the item that was taken. And now they're going to be worried every night that they go home, is somebody going to break into my store again? And the insurance, if they claim the insurance, didn't claim, whatever, whoever is exposed to this, whoever lived in the neighborhood, okay, and heard, oh, there was a break-in CVS yesterday. Did you hear? They broke the window. They stole this. They stole that. 2 months later, a year later, they got caught. Who knows if it's the same guy? Now you feel uncomfortable because you live in a neighborhood where somebody broke into CVS. Tomorrow they can break into your house. So a lot of people are affected by what happened, and none of them, or mostly none of them, get any benefit from the police catching this guy or not catching the guy. I'm not saying that the police shouldn't be doing their job in catching the people who are doing the bad things, but it doesn't really get back to where the damage was done. And God, the way he does things is differently, because God has to fix everything. And he does fix everything. He fixes the person who's stolen, he fixes the person who was stolen from, and he fixes the door. Somehow the guy's going to make more money next month or whatever it is. Or maybe he deserved that punishment. He deserved to lose that item by that other person stealing it. God is organizing everything in such a way that everybody gets what they need to get. But the purpose of God doing all of this is not to punish anybody, it's to fix us, to bring us to the place that we're supposed to get to if we live our lives in the correct way. I hope that was.
Yes, that I think it's amazing, because I think that it gives us an understanding of how to receive those corrections. I mean, because we can feel bad for the pain that we feel. We can feel bad because we may not feel worthy of good things, right? There's all kinds of ways that people get affected. Guilty feelings. There's all kinds of feelings that we can get when we're going through adversity. But if we
And
see those things as
just,
corrections,
I just want to add, like, explain something a little bit.
mhm,
We have the freedom, right? One of the most important things that God gave man is freedom. And the freedom means that we can choose to do good things and not good things. It's our choice. That freedom stays. Even when God is doing whatever he's doing to correct, you still have the freedom, and you decide when that bad thing happens to you how you're going to take it. Will you use it to become a better person, or will you get pissed off at God and upset and angry and go hit your kid or whatever you're going to do as a reaction? That's also your responsibility. So
mhm.
if you do the wrong thing, it's not just that you missed the corrective opportunity, you cause more damage, and now you're going to have to get a bigger correct, and so on and so on.
Fabulous. Okay, I want to go back here, put this question. I may need a help reading. How can we look at life with this view in situations when it doesn't end in a good way for the person with so much adversity or challenges? They die or overdose, etc. What's the balance with God, that God gave them those challenges, but they couldn't overcome it clearly? Them dying was the best for them. I understand in smaller scale scenarios, but what is the balance here?
Okay. To me, um, dying is not a final thing. Okay. If you have a day in the office, you fought with this person or you were nice to that person, you went home and you went to sleep. Life is not over because you went to sleep, right? Tomorrow's another day. Dying is very similar to falling asleep. This is the way I look at it, is when a person dies, they leave this world and they go to the next world. And the way that I was taught, when a person dies and goes to the next world, they go through their judgment and their punishment or benefit of how they live their lives, and punishment in there, it's the same punishment that we talked about here. It's just in different forms to correct and fix what damage was done. Most times that person is going to be sent back into the world. Obviously the body is going to be different, the family is going to be different, the name is going to be different. It's going to be a different person as far as we can tell here in this world, but it's the same soul that's coming down again. So what happens is, the fact that a person died is very, very painful for the family and for the people who love that person. There's no question about that. And that's also part of God's calculation. If God says this person had enough, it's time for them to go, God may decide to hold off on that because their mother is going to suffer too much or the sister is going to suffer too much, and wait for the opportune time that he feels, okay, this is going to be a good time to do this, is going to be fair for everybody involved, and that's when it happens. And sometimes we feel it wasn't fair to us because we loved this person or we cared about this person or they were improving and they were getting so bad, but we don't know what was really the calculation of why was this the time for this person to go. We don't know what they went through previous lives, what they did or didn't do in previous lives, and how this does or doesn't correct that. Sometimes um, people are born, babies are born, and they live just a half an hour. What was the point of that? Why was the woman pregnant and suffering all this time and giving birth to this baby? This baby was in the world for such a short time and they died. How is that fixing anything? Well, we don't know what's the story of this baby. They had a reason that they had to come to this world for a half an hour. But there was also a reason that we had to, if we were the parents or the family, to experience this loss. There was a reason for it. And everything in the world has a reason. Everything is managed by God. Every single wingle little thing that happens, it's all under management, like we like to say. There's a reason for it. We don't know what the reason is, but we have to have the faith that God is managing everything. And the way that He's managed everything till now, He's going to manage for us too. And the better our attitude is, like when something bad happens to us, if we get upset, like I said before, we're causing more damage. God doesn't want us to be upset. He says, I'm giving you a gift. I know that this gift hurts you. And this is the challenge of us growing with our faith and accepting that the things that are painful for us are also good for us. But if you accept it in a positive way, it counts so much more than if you get upset with it or disappointed with it or whatever the negative reaction would be. It's causing more damage to us mostly. So it's better to avoid that.
I think that the whole concept of loss, and it's not just loss of the living, is loss of the person who dies, is also loss of the living, right?
Yeah.
Because there are many situations in life where people experience loss, and it's not just by somebody dying. The whole concept of loss is a very difficult concept. But one time, many years ago, I went to a salon, and this wonderful lady who were friendly. She had a very good friend, a best friend. It was the friend that they were always together. They were inseparable. And that friend remarried and moved to a different state. So I'm doing my hair at her salon, and I asked her, how are you going to deal without your friend? Like, how do you feel about this loss? It's loss of the living. Now this woman has a new husband, a new family. She moved to a new state,
New life.
a new life, and you were left behind, and you were so close. And I wanted to know how she was feeling about it. And I couldn't believe her answer, because her answer was an answer of a person with faith. She said, Miriam, there is a time for everything. This woman was in my life in that way, which was full time. They were, because they were both single moms, they were together all the time, and they had kids the same age. She says, she was in my life during the time that was what was supposed to be. Now she left because she has another job and another thing that she needs to accomplish, and I have something else to accomplish. So it's not a matter of loss. It's a matter that I'm in a different stage and she's in a different stage, and we need to accept that. And it was incredible, because I thought that she would be sad and maybe I would be comforting her. And at the end of the day, she inspired me and taught me a lesson that,
And comforted you.
it comforted me, because throughout life we lose a lot. It's not just death. I mean, we lose people all the time. We disconnect from people, and loss of death. Like we're doing the show in memory of Miriam Amsalem. How she died was crazy. She went to exercise. She had an aneurysm, and within 24 hours she was dead. She was a young woman. How do you deal with those losses? Like, you have so many questions, but when you live in faith, that's the difference. And that's why you can heal. And that's why, and it's not that it's less painful. And it's not that you won't cry and that you won't miss that person, but it's that you have that hope that this person is in a good place, and that this person is embraced by God, and this person is finished with this one job, and it's maybe going to get ready for another job, and it's mysterious and we don't know, and we're scared of what's going to happen to us. And that's what I said in one of the other shows that I did, was that we're here in this world trying to collect points. That's all we're trying to collect, really. We shouldn't be trying to collect money. We can't take it with us. We can't collect houses, boats, jewelry. None of that matters. We can't take those things with us. But I always tell my kids, but the points you can take with you. You go, because every good deed that you come, you're creating an angel, and that angel is coming with you. When your soul goes home, all of the good deeds that we did, all the kindness, all the sweetness, all the smiles, all the hugs, all the support and the love that we give each other, we bring those angels with us to come to the judgment day and say, she did this good and she did this wonderful, and she wanted to smack that lady, but she didn't. She controlled herself really hard. And I collect points, and I have some of those points that I controlled myself, and I say, God, I'm getting some extra points here.
Not smacking that lady.
Right. So I think that living in this way, it just becomes less painful, because the entire perspective on those adversities is a little bit different. It's not one of punishment because you're a bad, mean, horrible person, worthless, but it is one of growth, one of fixing, one of elevating. So I just want to say something. It's 9:00, and that this is when we wrap up. And just before we wrap up, I wanted to share a personal story of ours. I started going out on blind dates when I was 19 years old. I really wanted to get married. And I would be introduced to somebody, I would go on one date, and I would say no more. And my mother came to me and she said, you're 19 years old. What do you know? What do you know? You don't know anything. Give the guy another chance. Go a second time. And I said, Ma, I know what I'm looking for. And I know that when I meet that person, I'm going to know that I found it. And she said, you're 19. What do you know? And I said, I know that I'm looking for somebody with peace in their spirit, a calm mind, a calm soul, somebody that when I come, oh, I'm upset because of this, I'm disappointed because of that, that person is going to be able to breathe, bring things down and calm down. And I said, I need that because I'm very
super nervous,
excited, and I have a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas and a lot of this, and I need just somebody to kind of tone it down. Okay, so my mother said, okay, it's not that I was asking for a 6'2" muscular guy. I was asking for something, something that has a tremendous amount of value. My father and my husband's father, Levi's father, went to high school together from the age of 14 to 17. My father came to the United States from Brazil, and my husband's father came from Costa Rica to the United States. They were classmates. They were about 17 and a half. They were saying goodbye. My father-in-law was staying in America. My father was going back to Brazil. And my father-in-law told my father, we should stay in touch. Maybe our kids can meet one day and get married. They were 17 and a half. My father looked at him like he's crazy because my father's not thinking about getting married. And he said to him, you know what? And he said to him, call me. You know what? When you have kids, call me. Life, took each one. My father-in-law became a physicist with a PhD in physics, and he became a professor. And my father became a PhD in law, and he became a professor. Different countries doing different things. And one day, my father gets a phone call and says, remember me? We used to be classmates. I have 6 sons. What do you have? My father said, I have 3 daughters. The older 2 are married, and the youngest is too young. Call me in a few years. And 4 years later, my father-in-law called again and said, well, now she's 19. so now our kids can meet. And I first went out with my brother-in-law on one date. I realized it wasn't for me. I asked to go out with the next one. I went out, and I knew on the first date. And on the third date, I proposed because I couldn't let this guy go. It had to be mine. Why? Because when I came to the door and I was so scared and excited and worried about this date, I immediately felt calm, even though he hadn't even said anything. It was a soul thing. And I think that throughout Levi's life, I can say that this has been a consistent thing. He's very spiritual, very connected, and lives in faith. And I can assure you that my life has been much improved because, I mean, these types of conversations, we have it on a regular basis. And it's a work in progress for me. It's a work in progress for him, but
Definitely.
it's always a work in progress. But it is a choice that we make to live this way and to think this way, and it doesn't come natural. Not for me, it doesn't come natural, and I have to make an effort, and I have to remember always those analogies and those stories and those situations, because when we bring these situations and we compare it to our lives, it's easier to remember the stick with the dog, or us putting our kids to sleep, and fairness, and how we think, when things happen to us, we say this is not fair, but when we're yelling at our kids, we don't realize that we're not being fair. So it's all of that is very interesting. But every single woman that I interviewed that had gone to tremendous adversity and then healed, they believed in a higher power and they worked in their faith. And I want to tell you that they were from all different ethnicities and backgrounds, and some were not religious at all. They're not religious, but they are people of faith. And some are religious, and I talk to people from different religions. So it doesn't matter. This is not a religion thing. This is a faith. It's a choice to believe in a higher power. A lot of these people, just like Levi said before, they didn't believe at all. They had no beliefs at all. They didn't grow up in homes that spoke about God. They didn't go to church. They didn't go to synagogue. It wasn't. They weren't. They didn't do the Muslims, because I did interview Muslims too. Everybody that I spoke to, some of them had come from nothing. Some of them, the parents once a year for Christmas they went to mass, but it was a choice that they decided to bring God into their lives after they had gone through that adversity. They started realizing that it had purpose, it had meaning, in their pain had purpose and meaning.
You have to tell the story about the doors.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna tell that story, and with that we're gonna wrap up the night. A bunch of years ago, we were doing terribly financially. It's always ups and downs, and we had been an up, and then it was a down. I lost my biggest client, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get new clients. We were lying down in bed, looking at the ceiling, not managing to fall asleep. And I said to him, I feel like I'm in this round circular hallway, and I see doors all around the circle. And I'm trying to open up the doors, and all of them are closed, and I can't open them. I feel like God is on the other side, putting his foot and holding the door and not letting me open the doors. And I'm so upset, and I'm so devastated, and I feel so alone, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. And Levi said, I'm in the same hallway. I see the same hallway, and I see the same doors. But I'm so happy. I said, why? I said, for two reasons. One is because God is right behind that door. How close are we to God? Look how he's orchestrating everything for us in such a way that he's in such close proximity to us. He's right here behind the door. He didn't forget about us. He's right here behind the door. And I said, and what's the second? And he said, the second is that we're trying to push the door out. What if we try to push the door in and let God in? And it was, because sometimes you want to solve the problem. You want to go and you want to do and you want to fix and you want to resolve the problems. And sometimes all you need to do is let God in and wait. And this is a period and it's going to pass and it's going to get better. And you still have to do the work and you still need to put in the time and you still need to make your effort. But if you bring God in and you show God that you trust Him, that you
Different life.
love Him, what?
It's a different life. If you
It's a,
bring that in, it's a different life.
it's a different life. So, um, guys, you saying what? You like to see a picture of us young? Okay. I will post pictures. Um, yes, it is a love story. Um, guys,
Still going on.
it's still going on. Thank God, still going on. It is 9/11. I thank you so much for staying longer with us. This is such an important topic. If you want to hear more about faith, Levi can come back, right?
Sure.
I always put my guests on the spot, and I
When-
always ask
when-
them, "Would you come
whenever you want to talk about faith, I'm here.
back?" Okay, very good, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, and bring God in. He's with you. He loves you. He cares about you so much. And in all the troubles that you're going through, see them as a correction. See them that you're in the right way to grow, to become the person that you're meant to be in this world. I love you all. Good night.